What's your read on that, the suggestion that a majority sympathise with that terrorist group and therefore should preclude visas being afforded to those individuals?
Well, unless Zoe has some evidence that the level of sympathy for Hamas is greater today than it was when Peter Dutton was bringing 1,000 people in from Palestine when he was Home Affairs Minister, then I don't see the difference. Like Zoe's right that a war has broken out between now and then. But what is it about that war that makes it different, such that people who might have come before the war or people who might have come just after the war, fleeing a devastating situation, would be a different security risk and therefore require a different treatment in terms of the protocols that we go through? I feel if she had a problem with those security protocols, maybe the Liberals could have fixed them while they were in power.
When we talk about such a tiny strip of land, and you've been nearby, I know that when we talk about this polling on sympathy for this group, isn't it fair to say that people in that area would be saying things to protect their families as well, given it's a terrorist group? They can hardly say, oh, I'm opposing this outfit.
That is true, but we need to remember as well that the kind of indoctrination to an anti-Israel state has been profound, and Andrew's right in this, over many, many years. I first went to Israel in 2007 and was showed videos at the time, and there were videos, it was a long time ago, that were being shown to kids aged 4, 5 and 6, and it was Mickey Mouse explaining that Israel was evil and that the Jews must die. So it is a profoundly embedded anti-Israel stance, and therefore we must do those tests. Now, I can't say I have no idea what tests were actually done with the 1,000 that were brought in under our administration. I'm sure that those details will be forthcoming if they haven't already in a different interview that I haven't seen. But nevertheless, we are in a profoundly different situation post 7 October, and we know from a survey done in June of this year, 57% support the Hamas attacks on 7 October, 64% support an armed intifada, and only 32% support a two-state solution. It is a much more heated time, and therefore we need to have greater vigilance.
Let's turn our attention to, it's the biggest show in the world at the moment, certainly in political terms, the Democratic National Convention. It's really flipped that race on its head. I'll go to you, Zoe, first of all, on this, because the message around that convention, Oprah Winfrey was just up, it's all about this message of hope and optimism and almost a sense of change, even though it's the Vice President of the current administration running for the top job.
It's certainly a lot of pizzazz. I just said to you before off screen, it's a bit like a Year 9 disco. There's so much froth and bubble and excitement and music and jubilation around these conventions. Nothing like, may I say, the Federal Council of the Liberal Party. We could do with a bit of music from time to time. But it's hard to actually identify the policy agenda, frankly, on either side at this point in time. So I'm looking forward to the more boring debate that hopefully will follow from here when we actually find out what the two competing parties of government are going to put forward in terms of the contest, in terms of the American economy and indeed their geopolitical stance.
And I guess at the basic, it's hard for you guys to be commentators, but it's from your perspective, I guess it's good that it's a race, because it wasn't a few weeks ago prior to the change at the top for the Democratic candidate.
I think we've seen a big change in the race. And, two of the most powerful motivating factors in politics are hope and fear. Donald Trump was running a very effective campaign based on lots of different elements of fear of migrants, fear of local crime. And Kamala Harris has come out and flipped that with a really hopeful message. And she's really upended the race and made a big difference.
Certainly has. Thank you both. We'll be watching it closely as we do. Tim Waltz, actually, the Governor and the Vice Presidential candidate, will be speaking very shortly. So we'll be live back to Chicago in a moment. Thank you both, as always.